So the Game Awards 2018 came around, and there was a lot of great games in 2018. I don't think there's any arguing that 2018 was an amazing year in gaming. We had so many great titles come out across many different platforms. And we definitely found that the PS4 had a lot of love and a lot of games worth buying, especially at the $60 AAA price point that most people are not super comfortable with paying all the time, but there were definitely some gems that are absolutely worth their price. Unfortunately, at the Game Awards, there was one game that always came up shorthanded, and it sucks. Hey, I'm Phoenix, and today we're going to talk about how Spider Man got screwed over at the Game Awards 2018. I'm going to start off just right out of the gates. Spider Man PS4 is a great game. This game excels in so many different areas. We haven't had a good superhero game in an extremely long time. Spider Man PS4 hit on a lot of these things and did a great job at them. Its design was amazing. There was absurd amounts of passion in this game. You could tell that the people who made this game fucking love Spider-Man. Like, I don't know how else to dig into that. It just oozes that everybody who worked on this is a huge fan of Spider-Man or loves it to some extent, and they let it show through the game. The combat is really solid. It feels good. You do feel like Peter Parker. You feel like you're actually fighting. You're really nimble and dexterous, and you have a lot of that same kind of speed that Spider-Man has always fought with. The voice acting was also great. All of the voice work was really impressive. Sometimes it's really hard to make something that is quote-unquote superhero-like when we have so many good Marvel Cinematic Universe movies out there, and we have this expectation for acting in superhero content, and Spider-Man just does a really good job. Yuri Lowenthal's an absolutely phenomenal Peter Parker, does a great job, and I don't think anybody can argue that the voice acting for most of the main characters was really good. Were some of the side characters not that great? Yeah, I've got a couple complaints about some side characters here and there, but I don't think I've played through enough of the game to like really point out and be like, that actor's bad or that actor's bad. But for the most part, the voice acting was awesome. The visuals, it's obviously stunning. Web slinging around is just really satisfying. And as you're flying through the area, you can definitely tell that it feels like you're Spider-Man. It feels good. It looks good. I mean, it looks like New York. There's no real way around that. New York just looks like New York, and it definitely doesn't not look like New York. As far as like the fidelity of the visuals, the faces looked really good. That was one of the first things that I noticed, is that how faces moved and how their facial expressions changed in cutscenes. I actually feel like I can really connect with these characters. It works. Whatever it is visually that they did, it works. I think it was a lot of like facial mocap. The hype for this game has been massive. This game has been a huge deal since it was first announced. I don't remember which E3 it was. It was either like E3 2015, I think. It was the same one that Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced. I'm not quite sure which year it was, but it has been extremely hyped ever since there. And the hype never stopped. We were always excited for Spider-Man. We were wondering, when is it coming out? When can we get our hands on it? Is the game actually good? It looks good. What is it actually going to be like? I have to say, Spider-Man PS4 set the precedent for me for superhero games. If Marvel ever wants to do more superhero games, this is the new bar. The Arkham games are good. I have to give it to the Arkham titles. They're pretty good games. Have I played through one of them? I haven't played all of one of them. I forgot which Arkham game that I've played, but it was a pretty good experience. Would I say that it set a new precedent? Not necessarily. But everything about Spider-Man PS4, if there wasn't a good precedent already set, this is the one. So I look forward to, more superhero titles in the future, and we'll see where they go. It sounds like that head of Marvel Games is very interested in expanding whatever self-contained story universe the games take place in. So I look forward to that. But let's get to the actual meat of this. Spider-Man didn't win any awards. That's the big spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the Game Awards so far, it just didn't win anything. It had 7 nominations, though. And I think this is where a lot of people are feeling like that Spider-Man got screwed over. Despite its 7 nominations, it couldn't land a single award. However, let's look at every single time that Spider-Man was up for nomination. It was always always up against both God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2. So while we're on the subject of Red Dead and God of War, let's go ahead and just quickly dive deep into Red Dead and God of War. Now, I've played through all of God of War, and I've played a good amount of the endgame content in it, and I have to say, it is my game of the year. I couldn't stop picking back up God of War. Even after I've beaten the main story, I still have to pick it up. I still pick it up every now and then. Maybe every like 2 days, every 3 days, I still pick it up and give a fight a go. Give something a go. They recently implemented a new game plus, and it's awesome. It feels good. I cannot wait to dive real deep into New Game Plus, but the difficulty, I love how hard Give Me God of War mode is. It's really, really difficult, and I feel like I have to actually learn fights, and they're fairly rewarding. But I think talking more about God of War's combat and what they did right is definitely a video in and of itself. Red Dead Redemption 2, haven't played it. I feel bad that I haven't played it because I wish I could talk more about it, but these reviews are probably not wrong. There are a ton of positive reviews on Red Dead Redemption 2. People are head over heels for this game, and I would love to dive deep into it to see why. However, it's no surprise to anybody that Red Dead 2 was going to be good. I think everybody had a good feeling that Red Dead 2 was going to be a solid game after the great success of Red Dead Redemption 1. So when you compare a game like Spider-Man to Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War, it's really unfortunate because had this been pretty much any other year, Spider-Man could have totally nabbed most of these rewards. The different nominations that it had was that it had Game of the Year, obviously, which it lost to God of War. Now, for me, I think God of War is 100% deserving. Almost every aspect of God of War, to me, is near perfect. I have a very, very hard time complaining about anything in God of War. It was also up for Best Game Direction. God of War won Best Game Direction. I think that it goes pretty hand in hand between the direction and Game of the Year. Makes a lot of sense that the game that had the best direction would probably also win Game of the Year. I think that makes sense to me. Best Narrative, it was next to, of course, Red Dead and God of War, but Red Dead Redemption this time won Best Narrative. Now, from what I've seen, it does seem like that the way that they push forward the story and the environment of Red Dead Redemption 2 around you playing as the character and being immersed in that world, it does seem very impressive. I wish I could comment more about it, but I haven't played any of Red Dead Redemption 2. Do I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is deserving of it? I don't know. Judging something like Best Narrative is something that I really have to sit down and actually play the game myself. If Red Dead Redemption 2 wasn't in this running, I would probably still give it to God of War. I think that God of War does a better job than Marvel's Spider-Man for pushing forth the narrative and making you feel really immersed in the actual story of the game. Best score in music, Red Dead Redemption 2 won this one. I don't know what Red Dead Redemption 2's music is like. I know that it's a very thematic game, so it does make a lot of sense that there's some really, really fitting music. Marvel's Spider-Man had pretty damn good music. Do I think it was as good as some of the movies? Actually, no. I do prefer some of the musical tracks in the movies and how they felt conveying Spider-Man compared to how the Marvel Spider-Man video game played. God of War's music had a couple of bangers. I do think that God of War had some really solid music. And it's unfortunate. I don't know which one would win personally between God of War and Spider-Man. I think I'd really have to sit down and listen to their scores more. Should Spider-Man have won that one if Red Dead Redemption 2 wasn't in the running and I had like better understanding of Red Dead 2's score? I'm really not sure. Compared to God of War's music, they both had really good tracks. I don't see one peeking out over the other personally. Marvel Spider-Man was also up for Best Audio Design. This is definitely something that I have a lot of knowledge in compared to some of the other categories. If Red Dead 2 didn't win it, God of War would have won it for me, 100%. I think that God of War has amazing audio design. Some of the creatures sound phenomenal. How a lot of the combat swings are implemented into combat, it feels really gratifying. Really, really strong. I really feel like I am the character that's in front of me. In Marvel Spider-Man, combat sounds did feel a bit bland to me. They do feel very cartoony and comic book-like, which I guess could play towards its strengths and would, I guess, merit those sort of sounds because it is a character that's from comics. But I think the way that the Marvel Spider-Man game is presented, I think I would have preferred a little bit more realistic sounds, or at least sounds that were a little more realistic to what I'm seeing, as opposed to sounding like something out of a comic book. The whams and slams were a little too cartoony compared to what I would come to expect from maybe like one of the Marvel movies where they have a really good blend of realism with comic book thematics with the way that these stories are written. Do I think Christopher Judge as Kratos could have beaten Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man? Because again, it's really hard for me to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 as far as like best character performance. Roger Clark was Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. Again, I haven't played it. I do really wish I could have some better input on this one, but I do think that Christopher Judge did an amazing job as Kratos. However, I do feel like that there was probably room for maybe the kid, Atreus, as best performance. Do I think the kid did an amazing job? Yeah. Do I think that he might be in the running for being compared to Yuri Lowenthal? Probably not. I think that would have just been really interesting to see. Yuri Lowenthal is an amazing voice actor. Definitely no way around it. Absolutely phenomenal voice actor. Christopher Judge did an amazing job playing Kratos. In this category, I'm not sure which one would have beaten out the other. I think I would have loved to have seen Yuri Lowenthal win this category, but I can't quite for sure put my finger down on which one I would deem a winner based on like my own opinion on this. I think there's only one or two more that Spider-Man was nominated for. Best Action Adventure Game, I believe that's what it was. God of War won this one. Hands down, God of War should have won that one. I completely think it is fitting for God of War to win that one. It is by far, to me, the best action adventure game that I've played in the past maybe decade even. I think that if you guys have been to my channel plenty of times, I'm sure you know that I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 is a banging ass title to me. Its combat is freaking great. I don't know how else to like rave more about Kingdom Hearts 2's combat. And I think God of War beats it. God of War is very Souls-like, and I think a lot of people understand where I'm coming from when I say that. God of War definitely feels like it promotes the same type of gameplay loop that Bloodborne and Dark Souls has. And I've played both Dark Souls and Bloodborne. I've played more Bloodborne than I have of Dark Souls, and I found that God of War is the most accessible action-adventure game that's combat is very much like the Souls-like genre. Its combat feels a lot like Bloodborne. It feels a lot like Dark Souls, where it has that same kind of slow, strategic gameplay loop for the hack-and-slash combat. But I think it's the most accessible form of that. It's definitely not a carbon copy. It doesn't feel exactly like Bloodborne. It's not the same as Dark Souls. It's its own brand, but it's very, very accessible to people that don't really play Dark Souls or Bloodborne that often. Did Spider-Man get screwed over at the Game Awards 2018? Yes and no. I'm not convinced to say that like, oh, it definitely got screwed over. It should have beaten these ones in these categories, because in the ones where Red Dead Redemption 2 won, I still have a hard time deciding whether I think Spider-Man would have beaten out God of War in that same category. But do I think that Red Dead Redemption 2 was more deserving of these awards? I wish I could say. I do need to play the game. I look forward to playing the game. I'm probably going to wait for it to go on sale before I buy it. These AAA title purchases, they've been killing me. That's pretty much all I really have for this video. What do you guys think? Did Spider-Man get screwed over at the Game Awards 2018? Do you think that Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War really did deserve the award over Spider-Man? Let me know in the comment section down below. Remember, if you like this video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, well, there's another button for that, I guess. If you want to see more gaming content from Master Phoenix Gaming, just be sure to hit the subscribe button, and you're welcome to hit the bell to get some notifications whenever I upload a new video. That's all I have for now, guys. I will see you guys in the next one.